There are a lot of people in the world who think about converting to a different religion. And well, I was thinking about what things can happen that, may affect their life. See, a lot of people think that changing from one religion to another is just simply giving up some pieces of meaning and embracing other pieces of meaning. Well, to me, that's basically how it is. But there is a big problem because people invest a lot of meaning into that. And anything, not necessarily religion. And what I would also take into account is when it comes to religions or things that have been on this planet for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and people have invested greatly into those. Well, the problem is a religion is not just a set of beliefs that is in your head. See, that set of beliefs is not even yours in the first place. When you were born, you didn't belong to any religion, and ultimately you kind of don't belong anyways to any religion. Just because you are passed through some kind of ritual and then, people constantly tell you that you belong to that. When everyone around you functions and thinks in the same way, well, you're kind of in a prison and you end up programmed that you are, well, technically what is imposed societally, morally, culturally on you. See, if you are raised in a family which, let's say, supports LGBT agendas, you will grow as a teen and later on as an adult fully convinced of the fact that that is the only truth that can be. If you grow in an environment where, let's say, the opposite of that is what is promoted and people around you also function like that, again, it can be quite a problem in a way because the problem a lot of people have in their lives is they are not programmed to believe something, they are programmed to die for something. That's a problem in a way, which is typical, unfortunately, to the idea of misery. See, miserable people can't care much how hurt they are. They can't care either how hurt they can get, right? So that is why for them it is easy to end up in a state where they can easily hurt others. Because if they can't care how much they get hurt, ultimately they don't care much about themselves. When you don't care much about yourself, honestly, you don't value life. So, what is for you taking someone else's life? If you look in the world's history, well, none of the religions has, or let's say Abrahamic religions, has been the wiser necessarily, or, well, maybe there is a lot of wisdom in each of those, but if you look at how much they have been used for bloodshed, well, that shows how much misery and ignorance there has been in people. And there is a reason why, people are being kept in misery and in ignorance, because religions can be very profitable. They can be used to divert the attention of people. And the problem is, when you divert people's attention, finally in their misery and repetitiveness, because misery equates repetitiveness in the first place, when something changes in their life, they will simply embrace it. Because when you suddenly look away from your misery to someone else or something else, you're not going to observe their misery because you're, anyways, identified with misery. You don't care how much you get hurt, you're identified with misery, right? It cannot be other way. So when you look at someone else, you're not gonna bother yourself with their misery. Maybe they're more miserable than you, but being identified with it, in a way, it is your truth. So you're not gonna take that into account. You see them smiling for once, definitely they're having a much better life, right? Even if they're in reality much more miserable than you. Someone cracks a joke, they laugh, well, they suddenly look as if, the grass is greener on the other side. And the logical mind will start doing its own things. It will start analyzing things. What is it that might make them happier, right? And some people might think that, well, it might be because of even their culture, or it might be their religion, or it might be anything else. Whatever reasons they are, some people simply change their religion because of cultural aspects. The problem with religion, in a way, is that it became what I call, as a personal concept, a meta culture, because it is now beyond the idea of a country. Religion and spirituality should always be something purely personal, but unfortunately, religion has become a meta culture. It is now widespread. People fight for it, people support it, people oppress it, people fight for it. And the problem is, the more of these frictions you create, the more you also create a pushback, because life can't live in repetitiveness. This is something that people fail to understand. Life has its own principles. You're not going to grasp them mentally necessarily, but you don't need to grasp them. Just do something repetitive and it will become your comfort zone. The problem is when you do it repetitively and becomes your comfort zone, the problem is you might actually slip into the idea of madness. See, psychology and psychiatry have been telling you that there is a very thin line in between, being, mad and, like pure madness and the idea of being, let's say, normal, whatever normal means nowadays, in terms of morality. And the distance in between these, the border in between these is extremely thin. The problem is, every time you try to break out of something or you force something by becoming even more miserable and investing more into it as if it is your comfort zone, the problem is life itself does not have an awareness. You are the awareness itself. Yes, you are a piece of life in this physical body. This physical body allows you to have a discriminatory mind, or what you call the logical mind. The problem is, life itself does not have any purpose. It doesn't have any awareness. It doesn't require anything. It just seeks to improve. And through your awareness, if you don't know where to direct it, ultimately you will lead yourself to more misery, right? Because how easy is it to become better in life? Well, responsibilities can be a piss, right? How easy it is to be miserable? Well, extremely, because you don't have to do anything, right? It's easiest to be miserable, and a lot of people unfortunately invest into it. The more you lead your life energies into something, or the more you invest into that, the life force within you will simply follow because it doesn't know where to go. It is like a river. It is up to you to guide it. The problem is, if you constantly force yourself into madness, well, unfortunately, one day you may slip. And slipping into madness is not necessarily a good thing because when people become the more ignorant they become, actually, the more they slip slowly and surely into madness because the more they lose themselves. When you lose yourself, you lose your grasp of reality. So technically, you become like a mold. Anyone can shape you in whatever form that suits them, right? So if you want to move away from your religion, it will always be tempting to some people because of misery. See, it's not only your misery that has been acquired, it is the misery of multiple generations, one after the other, right? A lot of people have been making unhealthy expectations that God will come in their generation's time and God will fix all their problems, or some kind of deity, or some kind of angel, or some kind of miracles will happen. See, miracles happen for some people, not necessarily all. Now, miracles theoretically and practically happen for everyone, but depending on one's awareness, obviously, ignorant people will simply shun them away. Either they will miss them, they will not see them, or they will simply give up on them. Because in misery, one of the most prominent prominent things, actually, one of the prominent things of miserable people is they don't feel worthy of things. One great, with miserable people, unfortunately, if something comes and let's say their village is flooded, right? They might be swept away by the waters. A helicopter comes and they have the time to rescue them, but they will simply give up on life because they don't feel worthy of being saved, right? This is unfortunately the destiny of a lot of people if they have invested enough into the idea of misery. So the problem with changing religion is something that not only exists in your mind. Maybe you don't care much about your religion, about the saints, prophets, I don't know, how Judaism functions, for example, and what you should remember about its past. But whether you care about it or not, that is a personal point. See, giving these up is not going to be easy because you have invested energy into those. Having kept them into your mind and caring for those thoughts for a period of time means you have invested some energy. It's not going to be easy to give up on that. Yes, you may embrace easily a new religion, but you will see as time passes by, you will feel a slow pull towards it. Depending on levels of ignorance or awareness, depending on certain things, you might pull out of religions as a whole, or you might want an extra religion and swap to that because you're not going to be impressed by the new one. See, miserable people are not going to be impressed by anything. So they will swap their religion, but most likely get back to their own because, in the end, you also have the experiences of all your ancestors, right? Most of your ancestors have been for a very, very long time the same religion that you are, right? So you're also gonna have to fight your ancestors, influence. Now, if you are a more aware person, that influence is gonna be less upon you. So maybe in your lifetime, you will easily swap to another religion and you're not gonna care much. See, it also is an emotional aspect because someone might feel suddenly pulled by a new religion. They try some new things and, well, they simply click with it and they accept it as is because in most situations, it is something completely new in their life. Ignorant people will obviously be drawn by something new because it is like a new challenge in the repetitiveness of their life. And most miserable people know that the repetitiveness in their life is what is keeping them miserable. So they will obviously try something new, right? The other point is when there is a lot of oppression, when there is a lot of hatred towards certain things, which don't forget, all that hatred is stored within you because your ancestors also have a lot of repulsion probably towards their own society. Because when you look at life as is, life has been made to be the exact same thing, right? The Vikings didn't give up their own idea, because they were conquered by Christians. They gave up their way of thinking slowly and surely because they have been thinking about those and like those for hundreds, if not thousands of years. We don't know for sure. But slowly and surely, people gave up on their old gods because they wanted something new. When you live the same thing again and again, probably your generation won't have any problem. But when you embrace something and repeat it and repeat it and invest into it again and again, you're slowly program the next generation to have a slightly increased resistance. And the next generation will have a slightly more increased resistance and so on and so forth. Right? So the point is this goes on up to a certain moment when simply generations will give up. If you study occult arts and you become capable of reading certain energies as a whole from, let's say, a certain country, you might feel that that country is ready to do a certain swap like this. The only point is you just need to be the bridge. You don't need to force, and actually, I would underline not forcing people to jump into something new because the moment you force them, not only is there a resistance towards what was in their past, but you will also cause a great friction into what is new for them, right? Nobody likes being forced into something, right? Even slaves, they don't like it, but it's just that they externalize their power, right? Even they reject certain things, but, well, they usually keep it into their minds because they are typically afraid. Or, well, obviously, being treated as slaves in a certain society, they are not given too many rights, and they kind of prefer being left alive than, being taken through any more repercussions that may come from, them rejecting a certain idea. So if we think about situations, giving up something that has been rooted within your ancestors can be quite a hustle for some people. When you swap from something that your ancestors have been believing, it doesn't necessarily have to be a religion, but you know, uh, this is something very prevalent in a lot of people, and especially in the previous generations. That is why I'm underlining constantly that religion is a powerful thing for certain people, because their ancestors have been having that and they were deeply invested into it more or less, be it ignorantly or from a more aware standpoint. But it is a great weight that you take upon your shoulders. Don't forget, you exist because thousands of people existed before you. So you have in your DNA the entire history of the universe, which also includes the thoughts, accomplishments, failures, suffering, and all of these things from your ancestors. Typically, they say the last 7 to 10, 12, 15 generations are more prevalent in you than what is beyond that. But still, you have all that history within you, their filth, their happiness, their greatness, all of those things, right, are also part of you. Depending on how ignorant you are more open to those and they will easily slip into your existence. But when you become a bit more aware, well, you're not immune to those influences. You're still going to be affected whether you're conscious or not of that. But the influences will usually be slightly less powerful or far less powerful. But one has to understand your ancestors will keep trying to live life through you because their unfulfilled desires are also within you. Don't take these as ghosts trying to come and possess you. No, 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 no. They're no longer here. Maybe they have reincarnated. Maybe they have passed into in existence and become one with creation. It doesn't matter. The impulses, or let's say the influences they have left here in this world as unfulfilled desires, are still in your DNA. They belong to them. They are no longer here, but they still influence you. Yes, this is a very powerful thing. And religions, strong beliefs, and the such, they can still influence you. That is why when you take such steps into life, take a great breathing and think for a while. Because depending on your level of awareness, you might make a step that will cause more friction in your life. You don't want to create more friction in your life because there's been already enough of it. And a lot of people simply can't handle the emotions that they have in their life. They don't need a change that will influence them in ways that are beyond most people's comprehension. Because, see, if you change your environment, let's say you move from one place to another, typically the move will be a physical one, right? You're not going to care too much about having moved in a new house, which is impregnated with the energies of other people. Because misery has been going on for so long, the house where you lived in most likely also was inhabited by other miserable people before, right? Or, well, it can be slightly a change or a feeling if you're more sensitive if you move from a house that's new and no one else lived before you into a house where others actually lived before you. You will see that you might have some awkward dreams from time to time, and you'll have some influences happening to you because the thoughts they've had, the depressions they had, all of those things are just, let's say, footprints that they leave behind, right? A certain influences that you are going to feel for a certain period of time. And being cyclical, they're going to simply bother you from time to time. So these are just simple ideas. Now, when you think about religions, thoughts, and attachments that previous generations had in common before you, those influences are going to be much stronger, right? So that is why some people relapse, It's not that they are necessarily drunkards, but it is a great influence of their ancestors, many of those who have been drunkards. And some broken aspect within a specific person might make those influences of their ancestors keep bugging them until they figure what the problem within them is, right? Same is with religion. You might want a new religion because you might think the grass is greener on the other side, or the other religion is less oppressive. But oppression typically has to do with people, not necessarily with religion. A religion might induce you the idea of peace and love and the such, but it doesn't mean that some dumb bozos won't make misery out of it because they're afraid that something may happen, or the other people will stop believing in the same religion they have. Because when people take religion as their comfort zone, that is always going to be a problem, right? Because a lot of misery is going to start out of people who embrace something, anything, as their comfort zone, right? So when we think about all of these ideas, right, religion, any other thoughts, and the such, attachments will always cause problems. Yes. So the point is, just take it as is. It is a piece of meaning. You don't need to give too much attention into it or make too much of a fuss out of it. Remember that religion is a more physical way of approaching creation, and spirituality is the pure way through which you go strictly within. Typically, religions tell you to externalize your power and, look for gods, angels, attend rituals which are typically external, right? Go to the church, attend group meetings where people pray together, and all sorts of things like that. Typically, it's more of an externalized aspect. I'm not saying it is much worse or it is whatever compared to spirituality. I'm more of a spiritual being, so I prefer using my inner focus and my inner senses and my inner guidance. All other people obviously need religion because it is what suits them better than me. So I'm not saying that I'm superior or inferior to anyone because I have a different path in life to follow. And well, probably different levels and layers of awareness or wisdom or whatever. It is up to everyone. Everyone acquires their own wisdom as they grow up in life because their background is technically the wisdom they acquire, right? And especially the physical experiences that they have. So, embracing thoughts and the such, it is always good to be a bit careful when you embrace new things because embracing a new religion, for example, means stepping onto a terrain you no longer have any roots. You're gonna need a big chunk of time, a very long time to build yourself some roots into a new such religion. And a religion is not just a bunch of, it's not just a simple, philosophical book that you read. Yes, obviously there's the canonical main book, but there are way other aspects and historical things, figures, and the such that one would need to invest into, should you want to invest into. The problem with most miserable people is they never build a root. They're never rooted into reality. That's why their imagination is taking control of them and everything seems possible to them. So they can easily swap from one religion to another. Because once someone doesn't have roots into this world, nothing will ever please them. The problem with the mind is it will constantly seek new things because that's basically what life wants, constant improvement, always doing something different. And a lot of people end up in that vicious cycle of challenges. They want a new challenge, they want a new challenge, they want that, they want that, they want that. That is the problem of life. I mean, that is the problem of people because life wants ever expansion. The problem is this ever expansion can't ever end in life because life doesn't have any awareness. It just seeks to expand, right? That is not a purpose, it is a function. So the point is, because once you say a purpose means pursuing something for a certain outcome. Life doesn't seek outcomes. Life just seeks to improve its experiences, to become closer again with creation. It is a small game where you pretend you're no longer connected to divinity and you have to pass through a lot of challenges to become one with creation again. It is just a little game, you can call it so. There are no rules, no expectations, because life doesn't have any awareness. To have expectations means you need to have a discriminatory mind, you need to have awareness. This physical body is what gives you the discriminatory mind. Your piece of life that you are, the piece of life that you are, is what the awareness is. And it also improves as it has accumulated more and more awareness, more and more wisdom, more and more inner experiences, or even outer experiences as well. So hopefully this long video raised a bit of awareness. You are appreciated. Take care, enjoy life, and this being said, Ferenjan Board signing out.